This is Retirement Roadmap Radio with Mark Fricks from Master Plan Retirement Consultants. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful solutions to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. And now, here is Retirement Roadmap Radio with your host, Mark Fricks.
Hello again and welcome to another episode of Retirement Roadmap Radio with me, your host, Mark Fricks, and with us today, as always, our co-host, Mr. Tony Shore. And the show today is the Countdown to Retirement, and it's actually called the Mastering the Last 5 Years Before Retirement, but I kind of call it the Countdown to Retirement. And it's just what changes need to happen when you're within about 5 years of retirement. And let me go ahead and warn folks listening, if you're 1 year away from retirement, don't stop listening, okay? We'll just have to condense a lot of this. But, if you're not prepared to retire, don't retire. Prepare first. And so, again, a really good show, I think, and I think it will be very practical and applicable to our listeners. So,
yeah, that sounds good. Obviously, there's a lot to understand and have in place before we retire, Mark. So where do you want to begin with this topic?
Well, I think you want to begin with, if you're 5 years or less from retirement, you should start asking some questions. Questions like, do I have enough money? I mean, that's a great question, don't you think? Do I have enough money to retire?
Yeah, that's a big one. How much do I need to retire? Do I have enough? You're 5 years out. You better figure that out, right?
Exactly. Or you may be working at Walmart. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying you may be working at Walmart. You also want to certainly start thinking about, what kind of investments you're in, what are your allocations, because what you've been in for the last 30 years is, I can almost guarantee you, not appropriate for what you need entering retirement. And several other things we'll get into today. We'll talk a little bit about long-term care cost, legacy planning. Should you pay off your mortgage? Should you downsize? What should you do with your 401k? Should you roll it to an IRA? I mean, so lots of areas to cover, but you can tell already that these are critical questions you need to ask yourself. And if you can't answer it, then you certainly need help. And even if you think you can answer them, you need a second opinion to make sure that the answers you're getting are not weighted in your favor just because, you know how we are. We kind of say, I'm good, honey. So let's just keep doing what we're doing type of thing. So want to make sure we don't get into that trap.
Yeah, a lot of people get in that right. We're fine. That'll work out.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, you don't want to make that mistake.
So what if I didn't take a left back 400 miles back? I mean, that's okay. We'll just keep driving.
400 miles back, you missed a left. Oh, no. Yeah, especially you don't want to do that with your financial plan, that's for sure. Oh, no. So when we're talking about year 5, you're 5 years away, what's something else? I mean, obviously, when people are in their 20s and 30s, it's an abstract comment, but you get to this point, and it's really important. And it's easy to see how, you have to ask the right questions and, like how much do I need? So what else do we need to know while we're still 5 years out from retirement?
Well, and let me mention those folks that are more than 5 years away. I have a lot of my clients, as you know, most of our clients are 50 and older. We deal with folks that are getting close to retirement. But they'll say, hey, can you help my kids? I said, yeah, save money. That's difficult. If you're 35 years old, put money away. Take advantage of the match at work. Do some Roth money as well as some tax-deferred money. If you got kids, buy some life insurance. That's pretty much it. I mean, I'm going to write a book. It's going to have a half a chapter. And I'll be done with it, for those under age 50. But with all, and I actually am being pretty serious here too. But with that, putting that aside, so again, once you think you're within 5 years, you first of all, you want to consider bringing in a retirement specialist, not just an investment advisor or an insurance agent or a broker down at your bank or whatever. These folks are probably do a good job managing money. I don't know. They have time on their side, but all of the rules change when you're 5 years away. There's so much more that you need to understand. And I'll ask people when they come to see me, if they're less than 5 years away from retirement, I'll say, well, why have you not hired a retirement counselor or a retirement consultant? And usually it's because they don't know. I didn't know you guys existed. I thought the guy I was working with or the girl I was working with was going to help me with this, but then I started asking about Social Security and tax planning, and I got a blank look. So then I realized, hey, I need more than this. Kind of like when you turn 50 and you start looking at your doctor and saying, hey, this guy's fine, but I need somebody that's a specialist with people that are aging and more complicated and the new test you have to take. And so you start looking for an internal specialist or something like that. And it's very similar to that in that you have to start understanding that you need a higher level of planning. And I'll tell you, Tony, I think that's one of the reasons we are so busy, because baby boomers are getting to that point, and they're starting to see the complications around this. And so I think the first step is finding help, even if it's just to chat. That's what we do is we just sit down for the first meeting, complimentary, and just chat about their situation, chat about what complexities they see coming. Maybe it's simple. Maybe they don't have any complexities. Maybe they're single, they have no money saved, and they're going to live on Social Security. Well, that's not too complicated. But with a little bit of savings comes a little bit of responsibility. With a lot of savings comes a lot of responsibility. And so we kind of begin the discussion with what are your complications? What keeps you up at night? Things of that nature.
Well, yeah, and with great power comes great responsibility. That's that's a great quote right there from the Marvel movies. Spider-Man. Anyway,
okay.
Yeah, you hit on that one nicely, and you didn't even know it. But you're right. Sure. I mean, obviously, we need to have all our ducks in a row, but I think everything you're saying leads to one central point, and that is, especially if you're this close to retirement, you need to be working with a financial professional. There's no reason to try to go it alone, right?
Right. And they need to be a fiduciary. Completely a fiduciary, not somebody that has a dual license, but a complete fiduciary, someone that acts in your best interest. And they need to be holistic. They need to cover all the things I've talked about and more. And we'll talk about those more as the show goes on. But again, if you have to go over to company A to get investment advice, and company B to get tax planning, and company C to get legacy planning, and company D to get Medicare planning, and you see what I'm saying? You're going to miss something. And these people aren't talking to each other. They're just talking to you. And so there's going to be a gap. And so you want to go somewhere that deals with all of it. And again, whether it's us or not, that's fine. Maybe we're not the right fit for you. That's fine, because let me tell you, we're plenty busy, and I'm not out there trying to throw a big net out and get another 100 clients. We were very limited on the number of clients we take on, but we're never limited on people we can help. And so many of the people we talk to and give advice to, we never work with. We're just like, hey, here's the answer to these 3 questions. Here's what you might want to be thinking about, or whatever. So it's not necessarily about, hey, our firm needs another client. We'd be fine if we never got another client. But at the same time, we want to help people, and that's really why I got into this business, was to help people.
Right. And I know that's what it's all about, and I think it's so important. I'm glad you talked about that. So one of the things you want to make sure you're doing when you're 5 years out, you got to be working with a fiduciary. That's the question, a trusted financial professional. And one of the first questions you ask should be, are you a fiduciary? And they have to be a fiduciary, a full fiduciary who's going to look out for their best interests and look at the big picture, and really focus on things like, what are the tax implications going to be in retirement? What is, how to maximize your Social Security? Are your investments, what's your risk? So what's the next thing we need to know within the last 5 years of retirement?
Well, we need to start with totally understanding the client financially, but also from a standpoint of understanding their feelings, their thoughts, their goals, their dreams. And so the first meeting or two, we're dissecting financially. We want to know what they have, where it is, how it's treated tax-wise, what's it invested in. All of these things from a financial standpoint, plus Social Security statements, 2 years of tax returns. If they have a pension, information about the pension, and start analyzing that. And again, we give them a list of things that we need, because we have to completely understand where they're at before we can know where to go. And then we talk about where to go. And what I mean by that is dream a little bit. Tell me about what retirement looks like for you. Are you downsizing? Are you moving? Are you moving to the beach? Are you going to cuddle up on your sofa? Are you going to play golf every day? Tell me about that. Are you going to turn your hobby into a part-time job? All of this needs to be taken into consideration because, it's one thing to build a budget off of somebody that's going to, go to church on Sundays, volunteer on Wednesdays, and watch TV the rest of the week, maybe go to the YMCA 3 times a week and things like that, versus somebody that's going to travel the world, buy a boat, get a second home, get a Harley. You see what I'm going, right? And so those are opposite end goals, and opposite, and then couple that. And I know this is going to be fun to listen to, but how long are we going to live? We start talking about their health and their family history, and so we've got to have this information before we can start actually putting together, a plan. And so that's where it begins, is financial information, dreams and goals, life expectancy is kind of the beginning of the process.
Right. And I think that's huge, obviously, and getting that process started. Now, let's take a quick break here, Mark, but before we do, why don't you let our listeners out there know how they can get a hold of you?
Well, a great place to start, Tony, is our website. There's so many things you can do there. It's masterplanretire.com. You can actually click on the radio page and check out past shows, subscribe to our program on Apple Podcast, Google Play, Spotify. But the biggest thing is on that front page of our website is a little button that says schedule, a meeting or whatever. And so you push that button and my calendar actually comes up. And so you can pick a time to spend 30 minutes with me. Typically, we do it via Zoom or via the web. Most people for that first meeting don't come in because it's only a 30-minute meeting. I just want to kind of find out what your questions are, what your concerns are, answer the questions I can answer. And if we see that there's a reason to begin running reports, and these are complimentary reports, we'll send you a form to fill out, and then we will meet again, and I'll share the reports with you. And so that's all complimentary. So in addition to anywhere from 6 to 10 reports being complimentary, you also get a copy of my book, The Road Less Traveled, which is about retirement. It's about preparing for retirement. It's actually a series of stories of people we've worked with and what we did and how we solved their problem. And so you're going to be able to relate to some of those problems in there. Very simply written. It's not something you've got to go look up a bunch of words to understand the book. I don't know that many big words, so I just use the words I know. But it's a great book. So I think we have room for 5 consultations over the next 10 days. I know the holidays are coming up and things, and so we'll do the best. If it can't be the next 2 weeks, if you'll at least contact us, we'll make sure you get an appointment in the next 3 weeks or so. But again, 30 minutes to just find out what's going on with you and see if we can help you in some way.
All right, thanks, Mark. And listeners, stay tuned. We're going to be right back with more of Retirement Roadmap Radio and our host, Mark Fricks, after this. And welcome back to Retirement Roadmap Radio. I'm your co-host, Tony Shore. Our host is the man with the plan, Mark Fricks. And Mark, great show today, talking about what we need to be doing those last 5 years before retirement. And you've already covered a lot of ground. What's next? Where are we at in this process?
Well, I think next we want to, once we've kind of analyzed everything and we've decided that we can help you and we're a good fit for you, then we want to start working on specific issues. And those issues are issues that have been revealed because of the reports we ran. So one of the first issues we start looking at is tax planning. We have the very strong belief that taxes will be significantly higher in the future. Right now, we're $27 trillion in debt. The debt payment on that is $270 billion a year. If the Federal Reserve raises rates, let's say they just double rates, to like less than 2%. Now we're at $500 billion in debt payment, and so you kind of can see why the Fed's kind of being pressured to keep rates low. That's certainly one reason anyway. So we want to look at taxes, and most people, Tone, the problem is they've spent all these years taking advantage of that annual tax deduction. Hey, if I put this much money in my 401k IRA, I get to take that off my taxes. Well, that's called a micro view. We prefer the macro view. In other words, do I want to, save on taxes this year or for the rest of my life? And so we're beginning to shift much heavier to Roth and other tax-free investments. And even if you've already got all of your money in a 401k, we'll start a conversion process. There is no limit on income or how much you can convert each year. It's just based on your tax situation, and we'll look at that. And so, the later you wait to start on that, the more taxes will go up. And now you'll be converting with high taxes, which makes it a little bit less positive. I'm not saying we wouldn't still do some of that, but certainly now while taxes are still low. So we'd start with tax planning. We also want to make sure that money is beginning to be lined up for retirement. There's a reason why the government came out with a new rule a few years ago saying even if you're still working, you can roll your 401k over to a personal IRA at 59 and a half. It doesn't close your 401k at work. It just means you can take what's in there, roll it to an IRA. Well, why would you want to do that? Well, number one, now we've got the world to choose from as opposed to the 12 mutual funds in your 401k. Secondly, we can get professional management. And thirdly, we can start putting it into various buckets with a specific job. Maybe one bucket, its job is to produce income. Bucket 2 is income later in life. Bucket 3 is healthcare needs. Bucket 4 is dreams and goals and stuff we want to buy and so forth and so on. So if we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ahead of time to begin creating those buckets, then we can let them mature and be ready so that when you hit retirement, you hit the ground running and it's ready to go. So I would say, again, significant upfront would be tax planning and reallocation, not among companies or mutual funds, but reallocation of how that money is being treated is the first two steps we're going to take to make sure that you're on the road to a retirement that is something that is special and something where you don't have to worry every day about what's going on. We have a written plan.
Yeah, and having a plan in writing, it makes a big difference. When it's put in writing and you have an actual physical plan to follow and you understand the numbers and where you're at and where you need to be, obviously it gets more and more critical each year that goes by before you retire. As you get closer, there's the 5th year, the 4th year, the 3rd year. What else do we need to know? What else do you have for us that we need to plan on for retirement before we get there?
Well, 3 more big ones. One would be what best word is to use would be legacy planning. People come in here and they've got a will that's 28 years old, or they've got a very simple will when they've got $1 million or whatever it may be. We need to study what you need. Do you need a trust? Do you need a living trust? Do you need your health care directive updated even if it's been done or not? Does your financial power of attorney need updating? And then making sure they all tie together into your existing accounts. We have to do what's called trust funding, or we may have to change some beneficiary designations, things of that nature. And so that's all part of that legacy planning. Very important to get that lined up. And also we want to take a look at healthcare planning. That includes not only the fact that the money that comes out of your pocket for 25 years of retirement is over $250,000 for a couple. That's co-pays, that's the cost of Part B, that's the cost of drug coverage, that's the drugs that aren't covered, that's the the gaps in coverage, things like that. And then coupled with that is long-term care planning. That's not even part of that $250,000. So if you need a sitter, if you need to go in assisted living, I know in the Southeast the average for a nursing home is in the $80,000 range. That's just an average nursing home. And so where does that money come from? And you still got maybe a spouse living at home trying to keep up the house as well. And here I am in assisted living at $50,000, $55,000 a year. Then I progress into memory care and then maybe a nursing home or whatever. And so we're living longer, but that means we're spending longer in nursing homes and longer in assisted living. So those are the next 2 or 3 things we're going to look at, because those are the things that can trip up your retirement. And think about this. The last one I was going to mention is premature death of a spouse. So if you're bringing in Social Security, your spouse is bringing in Social Security. If one of you passes away, then you're going to lose the smaller of the two. That could be $15,000 a year. That could be $25,000 a year. Do you have sufficient assets to cover that? And this is the big one, Tony. Is one of you spending, let's say, 4 years in a nursing home or something like that. So you spent anywhere from $200,000 to $500,000. Then you pass away. So now the spouse loses income. So you run those two reports together. And it can bite you pretty good. So we want to reveal that weakness if it's a weakness. And number two, how do we handle it? I don't think the solution is to run out and buy long-term care insurance. It's become unaffordable, almost unobtainable. The new policies are not very good, but there are some new tools out there. So that's another area we can explore. How can we make sure that you have long-term care coverage, and yet if you don't use it, that money's still yours and still growing, and you always end up getting it back plus more. So again, just so many moving pieces, and we're just touching on a few of them today. But those are the next things we're going to look at to make sure that we've got a good handle on what your situation is and what it's going to take to make sure that you have the peace of mind going into retirement.
Right, and that's key right there, obviously. So what's the next one you wanted to talk about?
Well, at this point, it becomes more of the smaller things that maybe, one of the things that comes to my mind is, when do you take Social Security? And I say small things, that could be a big deal. You could be leaving a lot of money on the table. So we want to make sure, when do you take it? Do you both wait till 70? Maybe one of you waits till 70, the other one takes it early. We're going to run software to reveal that. So Social Security planning. If you're somebody blessed to have a pension, when and how do you take that? And, do you want to have a survivor? Do you want to have a guaranteed 10-year payout? You're always going to take less if you take these options. Maybe you want to use something called pension maximization. If you qualify for a pension and you've not turned it on yet, ask me about pension maximization. It's a way to have your cake and eat it too, and end up leaving someone tax-free money instead of a taxable pension, okay? So just these little things that not everybody is necessarily going to have a situation with. And then we start looking at things like, are you going to work part-time? We need to kind of put that into the equation. We mentioned this earlier. Are you going to downsize? Unfortunately, in our area, and I think this is true in a lot of areas, the homes that baby boomers want are not out there, so they're building them. These ranch condos and senior living, cottages and things like that. They're full. And they're building them as fast as they can. But guess what? Because of supply and demand, they cost more than the house you're downsizing from. So is that really a good idea or not? So that's something we have to take a look at as well. So it's these little individual things that we have to look at that are important. When it comes to retirement. And then, we want to help build you a budget. What's your budget going to be in retirement? Is it going to be the same as what it is now? Typically, it's not. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. What can we cut in expenses and spending that really aren't necessary in retirement? What will go away? What will maybe come up? What new things will come out? So we've got to get a hold of those things and make sure that it's tailored to you. And not to, I read a magazine, Mark, and it says I can live on 80% of my income when I retire. Well, that's great. Welcome to mass financial planning. If you want mass doctoring, tune into Dr. Oz. But let's talk about your situation, not 5 million people's situation, and find out what's best for you.
Plus, it sounds like that person wants to take a 20% pay cut when they retire.
That's good. Maybe they do.
It's true. Maybe they will. But you know what? We're almost out of time for the show today. I know it just flew by. Is there anything else you want to add before we go?
Well, again, don't leave this to chance. And even if you're 6 months from retirement, I had somebody call me 2 weeks from retirement and said, "Oh, Mark, I'm retiring. I went to a class 3 years ago, and now I'm ready to get started." And I said, "Oh man." But we did it. We did it. Was it as good as if we had done it earlier? Maybe not, but it's still effective. And he has a great plan. He's enjoying retirement, he and his wife, and so that's great. So don't wait. But don't panic, all right? So contact us. I mentioned the website earlier, masterplanretire.com, complimentary meeting, and then after that, complimentary reports, a copy of my book. And then from that standpoint, the website will tell you more about us as well, so masterplanretire.com. If you just want to give us a call, 770-980-9262. And then we have this little text magic going on. If you just take your phone and go to your messenger and just type in the number 21,000 and then the word what's the word? Master plan. Thank you. The word is master plan. So just type in 21,000 as if that was a phone number, and then the word master plan, and then immediately within 10 seconds will pop up our contact information. So that's 3 really good ways to find us. You can always search Google if you can't remember, but hey, it's pretty easy, right? masterplanandretire.com. And then, of course, go to the radio icon, and you can listen to past shows. You can go on the podcast with Apple, Google Play, Spotify. So lots of ways to reach us, lots of ways to learn. We believe in education first and then planning. So.
All right, thanks, Mark. And listeners, that does it for today's episode of Retirement Roadmap Radio with our host, Mark Fricks.
So happy you joined us today, and if you're listening on podcast later on, glad you were able to find us and listen in. I hope this has been helpful. I hope you'll take our advice. I hope you'll tune in again. We are on this station every week, same time, same channel, and we're on actually 4 times every weekend. Again, if you miss a show, go to the website, masterplanretire.com. In the meantime, until we see each other again, remember, plan well and prosper. Have a good day, everybody.